Alright, there we go. There we go. Okay, now we are set. And we're ready to read the rest of Dino Rift. I know Derek said that he was wanting to have me read it earlier in the day so he can see my reaction. So I did say that I would start at 7:30, so I'll give it a couple more minutes before I start, just in case, to give him time to get here. uh, yeah, so how's everybody doing? So we are reading Dino Rift by Derek Borne. This is his first book. This is the second book to the series. So we have, hi Mountain, hi, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. We are on chapter 43, and we're gonna read the rest of the chapters, and there's also an epilogue. So, I'm excited. I was warned by Derek that I would need tissues. I failed to heed that warning. I am hoping that that is not really gonna be necessary because I didn't. It was a game. It could be. It could be. So Derek Borne, this is one of the mini books he has written, and it has been quite the cliffhanger many a times, and emotional roller coaster through several chapters, for me at least. So yeah, I'm really excited to finally get to the last section. I do have both of his books, this one and the second book in the series, in my Amazon storefront. You can get that if you're on my TikTok. If you click on my link in my profile bio, you scroll down to where it says Amazon storefront, and it'll be in the suggested books list. And if you are on the YouTube, I did include a link directly to that section of my Amazon storefront in the description. So make sure you pick up your copy, both of them, and yeah, so that way we can not only have our own copy to hoard, but also to support our authors. Please do. Alright, so I'll give it one more minute just to make sure I start at the time I promised. And also to give Derek some time. I know he been coming in every now and then. I'm like, no, not yet. Not yet. Soon I will. Okay. This left for a bit, so I was thinking it's not like The Land Before Time. It kind of is like The Lost World, or I forget the name of it. It's pretty crazy. If you're interested, I have all the recorded chapters I have read on my YouTube channel, so make sure you join and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many people subscribed on my YouTube channel as I can. But I have all the pre-recorded chapters that I read on my YouTube channel underneath the live section. But yeah. So, okay, now it's officially 7:30. I can start now. So I'll go ahead and, just for new people, I'll just read the back of the book for, kind of the story of the book. The Rift, a gateway to a prehistoric world. For years, Soracor has kept its existence confidential while touting themselves as a run-of-the-mill dinosaur museum. For two Utah teens, Cameron and Vivian, a carefree night to themselves quickly turns into a daunting trek through an exotic, unfamiliar time. Not only do they stumble upon Soracor's nefarious agenda, they also encounter, and it is nefarious, they also encounter major discrepancies concerning the past that would rewrite history books as we know them. Cam and Viv's reliance on each other through the primeval environment also tests their friendship in unexpected ways. Yeah, it does! Will they survive and make it home together? So yeah, that's where we're at. Yeah! Mountain, they're pretty good. I've been trying to keep them an hour recording each. I think a couple times in the beginning I got way ahead of myself. But, as always, before I jump into chapter 43, I like to read the last couple paragraphs of the previous chapter for those that have been keeping up. It's kind of like the, previously on Dino Rift. But it's not like an actual, true, previously on type of a scenario. It's just me reading the last couple of paragraphs of the previous chapter. Alright. Let's get comfy. I know, right? Let's get comfy and ready for some reading. This prehistoric world, as ominous as it may appear, this is my paradise. Snivels came from her nose as she used a free hand to wipe it at her tear ducts. As for mine, it will never feel complete without you in it. Unprepared to hear that, Theo wrapped her right up in both arms as his chest tightened. He never thought he would or could hear his daughter in any way. It warmed his heart to have her by his side, but her disagreement with his choices made his arms ache. Wherever and whenever you are, I will always love you. With her face in his chest, she managed to respond, I love you too, Dad. The embrace continued for a few more seconds until he angled his head down to whisper, Now, go tell your friends that I'm leading Sorokor into a trap. The sudden swerve in conversation made EA try to pull away. Wait, what are... Please, sweetie. Theo kept a firm grip on her. Don't make a scene and trust me. I'll get you all out of here, but to do that we need the Gigantosaurus. Okay. Chapter 43. Finished with their fruity dinners. They're talking about fruity dinners. Finished with their fruity dinner, Cameron and Vivian had been reminiscing about times they'd spent together in the past. I should start the beginning and listen to all of it, maybe. Maybe. I will be finishing the chapter here, or the book here, on this during this live, so if you do want to not have it ruined and actually plan on either reading the book yourself by getting your own copy, please do. Great supporting of the author. Or if you want to just rewatch the videos I've done, then now might be the time to duck out. I won't judge. Finished with their fruity dinner, or both. Cameron and Vivian had been reminiscing about times they'd spent together in the past, and in this dinosaur past as well. They tried their best to not think about their surroundings, the boat and the armed people. At one point, something dawned on him. Wait, you took your sweater off in front of me on purpose, didn't you? Viv flicked his nose with a finger as she snickered. Should have seen your face when I caught you looking. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen you do. A cough sputtered out of him. Oh gosh, how do I even respond to that? Her smirk grew bigger as he squirmed. Choose your words wisely. Gonna put me through that, huh? Chuckling, he composed himself as he looked her up and down, then focused on her cute face. You'd look even better without the bug guts. Mostly, though. Never thought I'd say this. I'm attracted to your kindness, your brilliance, and since you've been waiting a long time for me to clue in, your perseverance. She delivered a slap to his shoulder while laughing before holding up her index finger and thumb apart by a smidge. I'll admit, I had this much patience left in me. Going to start at the beginning. Have a good night, Mountain. See you on Twitch. Yes. I'm not sure if it's quiet or not, but I have you turned up to 66. Yeah, no, it's full for me on my end. She delivered a slap to his shoulder while laughing, before holding up her index finger and thumb apart by a smidge. I'll admit, I had this much patience left in me. Glancing away for a moment, he turned back to gaze straight into her dazzling teal eyes. Everything about her in that moment captured him. Having her seize his heart with just a look didn't bother him at all. I should apologize, then. In the hopes of making him feel better, she took one of his hands into both of hers. Apologize for what? Now that she had his hand, he pulled hers closer to his face. I'm sorry that it took getting thrown into the past to realize I could have a real future with you. Viv opened her mouth to speak, but all words seemed jumbled up in her mind. The last thing he'd said made her want to bombard his face with her lips and everything she'd been... Oh, wait, sorry. Seems like it could be one of these moments. Viv opened her mouth to speak, but all words seemed jumbled up in her mind. The last thing he'd said made her want to bombard his face with her lips and everything she'd been holding on to for so long. Before she could even think about leaning in, the sore core situation returned to her thoughts. Really know how to put on the cheese, don't you? Cam picked up on her shy demeanor. I thought it was pretty good. Gonna have to remember it for a book sometime. Oh! Hey, you two lovebirds. Emily Ann had seen them holding hands from a distance. Can I officially call you that? Rosiness claimed victory over Viv's cheeks. Well, we're definitely connecting on a new level now. Excellent. Making cautious glances all around, EA got close enough to them so she could keep her voice low. Hate to burst the love bubble, but my dad is planning something that will maybe get us back to safety. Puzzled, Cam let go of Viv's hand. But he made the deal with them. Give them the dinosaurs, we'll all go free. EA flexed her fingers as she sighed. My dad and I know Sorokor. They aren't the most trustworthy of business partners. Fear and exasperation intertwined in Viv's stomach as she exhaled into the cool night air. So you're saying we are doomed anyway? To try and keep her calm, EA placed a hand on the teen's shoulder. I'm saying you need to stick close to me and keep your eyes and ears open. She lowered her voice even more. Whatever my dad's leading them into, we will still get you two home. Up in the boat's cockpit, Archer stood a short distance away from the driver. Periodically, he would check his peripherals to keep an eye on Sebastian sitting in a corner. Cheer up, Mr. Sharp. Once we get these dinos, you're a free man. A stifled laugh came from Sebastian. Even multimillionaires know words are cheap. Archer chuckled through his nose. Surprised you're willing to give up that life. Still restrained at the wrist by zip ties, Sebastian let them rest on his thighs. It isn't much of a life when you're paying lawyers and an ex-wife just to see your kids and you never get to see them. Once Archer had registered that, he had nothing left to say to him. The door opened and Theo entered. This is a good enough spot to dock. A quick once-over of the scientist's rudimentary map gave Archer enough to agree. Set her over to the left. He reached over to pick up a receiver for the vessel's PA and brought it to his mouth. Actually, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Theo extended a warning hand, then emphasized it with an index finger. It'll be easier to take them when they're sleeping. Archer gave him an impressed grin. If you say so. Sounds like you could have been a decent member of my unit. Halfway back through the door, Theo paused to remark, I'd rather appreciate nature than desecrate it. He made it down a set of stairs and passed by the unit members before making it to his daughter and the kids. Everybody ready for some fun? As the boat neared the river's edge, Nandy became excited and headed for the railing. It grew eager to explore a new area. Cam piped up. That all depends, Viv added. Does the definition of that include bugs? Amused by their replies, Theo patted Cam on the back. You kids are a hoot. I'm going to miss you both when you get home. The three young friends exchanged confused looks as Dr. Lewis walked away without any other information. A somewhat alarmed Viv called out, That doesn't answer my very important question. Are there going to be bugs? Yes or no? All right, chapter 44. Massive gates closed behind Felicia as she pulled into her parking spot back at the Utah Sorokor base. A few vehicles remained, but she recognized most of them belonging to cleaning staff and a couple of their scientists. Sometimes they'd stay late when big projects were happening, or in this case, big disasters. Felicia heard her phone go off as she got outside and shut the door to her Porsche. Once again, the screen showed Mr. Zing. I just arrived. What's the status on the explosives? We've already sent some off to the main rifts around the world, Zing remarked with intense urgency. Thanks to our jet drones, one had already made it to the rift in Lanning 5 minutes ago. Another is off to the Netherlands, while one is heading to Argentina. He checked his tablet for an update. Yours should arrive in less than 10 minutes. Calgary should receive theirs 15 minutes after. There are still more to go out. His mention of one making it to a site made her curious as she leaned against her car. Did it work in Liaoning? Zing cleared his throat. It did. She wasn't fond of his short answer. Care to expand on that? The space time bomb succeeded in imploding the rift, he reported, tapping on a file on his tablet. The video surveillance replayed the events. Because this particular energy is so unique and requires more research, we had no idea of certain side effects. Sending you the video now. Not sure if I like the sound of... Make sure you are up on the roof to obtain the package. Zing said some words to his employees, then returned to the conversation. It will work, Felicia. All rift energy in Lanning is gone. Hearing of success gave her some sense of peace. A few variables stuck out in her mind. One of them being Sebastian. What about our people on the other side, and those kids? The longer we wait, the longer we risk losing everything, Zing countered with absolute firmness. Maybe by tomorrow morning we'll have the world back to normal. Let's hope. Felicia hung up, only to turn around and see Bartolome's 50 feet away and about to get into his car. Their eyes connected. Felicia? Anthony closed the driver's side door. What are you doing back here? Damn it. She hung around her Porsche for a moment longer. I forgot something up in my office. Straightening his fancy suit, he strolled over. Heard we sent a team for some Giganosaurus. Should we be expecting the delivery this morning? Possibly. Felicia scratched the back of her neck, hoping to keep the conversation short. I'll let you know as soon as I know. Sounds good. Okay, see you in the morning, Tony. Oh, and Felicia. Oh, great. She'd only taken 2 steps. Everything within her told her to get out of there and book it to the roof, but she tried to keep any suspicion at bay. Yes, Anthony? He smiled. How about we go grab drinks sometime soon? Immediately, her eyebrows shot up. You're seriously going to ask me that after you sent me the blackmail earlier? A single chuckle left his mouth as he shrugged. Thought it was worth a shot. Felicia maintained a good pace toward the facility's door. What a freaking creep. That's what I was thinking. Bartolome made it halfway to his car when he came to a slow stop and squinted. Swinging his gaze around, he perked up his ears. Do you hear that? On full alert, Felicia had just tapped her keycard to the reader. All of her muscles tightened at once. Hear what? Mechanical whirring came from above. Both of them looked upward to the night sky. An unidentifiable object flew in and descended over top of the Soracor building. Did that just land? Clang. Before Bartolome could finish his sentence, Felicia had already disappeared into the building. What the heck is going on? Uh-oh. Just drive home, Bartolome. Just drive home. All right. Chapter 45. Ooh, 5 more to go. Unloaded from the boat and armed to the extreme, Archer's unit followed Theodore Lewis through the thick prehistoric forest. A few among the group hacked away at fronds and young trees to make a recognizable path back to the river. It also helped 2 large jeeps pulling trailers to follow along. Between the treetops, some light from the moon and stars made its way through. Everything else was being lit up by swinging flashlights or headlamps worn by Soracor operatives. Sebastian kept in stride behind Archer, the man he currently disliked, and Theo, the man who more than likely loathed him. Along the way, he reflected on each and every relationship he'd ruined. Archer glanced back to his men to check on their collective countenance. How much farther to go, Theo? Theo took in what he could see with his flashlight, which he'd stolen from the camp a couple years ago. We're almost there. Those 3 words failed to resonate with Archer. You better not be leading us somewhere totally... Calm down, Keith. Theo didn't even look back as he replied. And don't worry, you'll get your Giganosaurus. Maybe even a couple of them. In the present, Felicia pushed her way through the roof access door, making her way up a ramp to the helipad area. She noticed the small aircraft right away. The idle, smart car-sized drone sat roughly 10 feet from where she stood. Attached to its underbelly, the space-time bomb glowed a menacing, unearthly blue. A million thoughts burst into her mind. This is it. Is this the right move? What if we're making a mistake? As she twisted the bomb away from the carrier with both hands, she thought it looked twice the size of an industrial mail canister. She tucked it into her like a swaddled baby and returned to the access door. Opening it, she took 1 step in. Slam! Another door somewhere below within the stairwell echoed. Alarm bells replaced all the doubts in her head as she closed the metal door behind her to make the least amount of sound possible. Oh, man. It's getting stressful. Emily, Anne, Cameron, and Vivian stayed close to the group's rear. A pair of Soracor men kept them in their suspecting sights. Without any cares in the world, Nandy trotted along beside its human friends. It sniffed the air a few times as it weaved between everyone. Slight noises made it halt and gaze around. Cam hiked beside his newly appointed girlfriend. Think these bozos will let me take a bathroom break? Viv sighed. Really? You had a chance back at the boat. I didn't have to go then. What are you, 6? Just kidding. That was me. That was literally less than 3 minutes ago. Doesn't really matter now, does it? Ye cleared her throat louder than their chatting. Didn't take you guys long to reach marriage banter, huh? Cam smirked. Does it make you uncomfortable? Hey, one of the Soracor personnel called over. Go take your leave. Then he spoke under his breath. Can't stand this kid. About to step away, Cam raised a finger. Excuse me, Private Ryan. Mind if I borrow your rifle in case something tries to, Go now before I shoot you. Both hands up, Cam tried to suppress a laugh. Loud and violently clear, he headed left, slapped away some low-hanging branches, hopped over a mossy fallen log, then finally found a spot worthy of relieving himself. Yawning, he unclasped his belt. Snap! His finger had just touched the zipper pull of his pants when he heard the twig break. Viv, that you? Looking left, he kept unzipping as he turned his head to the right. Hiss! Gah! Cam stumbled back a step as he identified the reptilian face. Freaking Nandy! Don't do that to me, you dumb dino! Snap, crack. Already midstream, Cam and the alert Nandy reacted to the noise that neither of them had made. Hello? Oh, that wasn't them. Nandy is making me think of every cat, or some dogs, I guess, when you're trying to go to the bathroom. All of a sudden, they're just there, staring. Emotional support, right? Good evening. We're just finishing our book, Dino Rift, by Derek Borne. Okay, so the snap crack was not either Cam or Nandy. Okay, already midstream, Cam and the alert Nandy reacted to the noise that neither of them had made. Hello? Felicia had made it to the elevator which led to the basement. Thankfully, she hadn't come into contact with any of the janitorial staff on the way. Every footstep brought her closer and closer to the possible end of Soracor. Ding! The elevator door swooshed open. A half-second of hesitation went by before she boarded. Repositioning the explosive, she stuck a hand out to press the button for the rift's level. I swear, Bartolone, you dare... Ding! As the doors began closing, she stared straight ahead. Bartolone came into view. Felicia, what are you doing? Her eyes flew open in panic, running up to the elevator doors as they closed completely. Anthony slammed a closed fist into the shiny metal. God damn it, what's she up to? Oh, good. Whew. Meanwhile, at the front of the caravan, Theo peered ahead. Archer had his head turned and nearly bumped into the back of the scientist. Hey, watch where you're stopping. Theo's right arm sat at 90 degrees with a closed fist in the air. The crew recognized the signal to hold their position. To make sure they all knew what to do, Theo slowly spun around and shone his flashlight under his face. Go slow. Everyone down the line stepped through the brush with extra care, including the jeeps as they decreased in speed. EA and Viv also complied, who had been cognizant of Cam still being a bit behind. Should I go see if he's okay? Viv subconsciously picked at her thumbs again. Or maybe I don't want to go near that. EA's snort morphed into a laugh. Girl, trust me, after what I had to deal with after eating that dragonfly, you don't want anything to do with that. Entering the cave-like room, Felicia used her keyboard to bypass the metal safety wall's door. On the other side, she gazed at the swirling, electrifying rift she'd protected for so long. At that moment, she reflected on its significance. The rift had been a part of her life, her livelihood. Now it threatened the world she lived in. Increasing warmth tingled within her arms. A reinforced glass partition of the bomb glowed with excitement the closer it got to the window of space-time. Every step Felicia took made the explosive vibrate within her arms. It was as if the energy of the rift itself and the reversed energy were calling to each other. 10 feet away, she took one last look at the picturesque prehistoric time. Here we go. Felicia, what in God's name are you doing down? She spun around when she heard the voice. Bartolone had charged through the metal door, his eyes focused on the unfamiliar tech in her clutches. What is that? He's so entitled. Mere steps away from the nest, Theo grinned from ear to ear as he veered off to the right. He directed his light to small bodies within the flattened sticks and greenery that had been torn from trees. Aren't you two beautiful specimens? Archer finally got into a position to peer into the nest. Wait, they are actually babies, yes. Uh-oh. Admiring the infant Gigantosaurus, Theo hopped on into the nest. You know what that means, right? Sebastian took one look at the babies and immediately thought of his own children. Oh, crap. All Archer could see were dollar signs as some of his men came up beside him to observe their findings. Other than a full bank account, I'm not sure I follow. Crouched beside the infants, Archer's not very bright. Crouched beside the infants, Theo flexed his hand before making a flat palm. Smack! Slap! Both baby Gigantosaurus woke from the strikes and cried out. Archer's face went slack. Theo, what the heck? Yup. Theo sprang back up. You just came between them and their parents. Roar! Uh-oh. Is that what I think it is? Bartolone took a deep breath, trying to catch it as he had rushed the entire way to the basement. Is that some kind of bomb? Felicia noted his small steps toward her. Stay back, Anthony. What are you doing down here? We need to close it and end this, she answered, attempting to steady her shaky voice. She took the weight of the bomb in her right hand and held it closer to the crackling rift. Don't even try to. Crack! Bluish time-space energy shot forward and lit up the room, taking both humans by complete surprise. By the time Felicia had uttered a gasp, a pair of hands caught both of her wrists. Bartolone blocked a kick with his leg before shaking her around. Give me the bomb! Not very smart. He overpowered her enough to throw her to the ground. She yelped as her back hit the concrete floor. The canister of unstable energy rolled out of her hand. Still standing, Anthony darted for it. This guy's on my last nerve. His fingers barely grazed it when multiple lightning-esque currents stretched out from the rift's edges and clinched the tech. Finally, yes. The rift glowed brighter than it ever had before. Electric-like currents of the space-time force swirled and sparked like a storm on steroids. Right in the center of it, the energy bomb hovered with the help of sizzling bolts. Bartolone managed to tear his stare away. You need to tell me what... Clang! On the safe side of the protective wall, Felicia locked it for... Yes, Felicia! On the safe side of the protective wall, Felicia locked it from the only side which could be accessed with the keycard. I'm trying to redeem myself. Bye-bye, Bartolone. Whew, chapter 46. Oh, man. Okay. Chapter 46. Roar! Thunderous footsteps seemed to emanate from all around. Archer fumbled to clip his flashlight to his rifle. Theo, did you just make us frigging sitting ducks? He called out to a pair of his cohorts. Net the younglings before they run. Theodore bashed into the Sorokor unit leader, which jostled the rifle out of the hunter's hands. You should have stayed out of this time. Weighted nets shot out and expanded over the babies, restricting their attempts to flee. Archer charged at Theo, grabbing him by the shoulders and sinking a knee into his gut. As the scientist wreathed on the ground, Archer growled, You should have died out here a long time ago. Then he barked at his men, Get those infants tranked and rigged up. The rest of you, keep an eye out for Ma and Pa. One of the jeeps pulled up to load the baby dinosaurs. A couple dozen Sorokor personnel had formed a perimeter around the nest, as it had become a possible ground zero of a parent Giganosaurus attack. Distressed by the hidden cry, Emily Ann stayed close to Vivian. Wherever Cam is, he better... Mama's coming through! Giganosaurus. A massive Giganosaurus head broke through trees. Another deafening roar bellowed out of its jaws, lined with serrated teeth. Nandy galloped out of the forest toward the others. Aw, Nandy's like pretending to be one of the Giganosaurus. That's cute. Okay. Nandy galloped out of the forest toward the others. Cameron dashed through overgrown fronds and booked it as fast as his legs could take him to Viv. Get out of the way! She's furious! Back in her arms, he sucked in a hard breath. Might be Papa. I didn't actually check. Almost to the group of armed humans, the railroad, car-length, 8-ton adult Giganosaurus didn't decelerate. It slammed its giant feet into the brush beneath it. Some aimed their weapons at the behemoth of a dinosaur. Roar! Crash! Crunch! Another parent Giganosaurus barreled through from the left. It knocked the jeep over without much effort, sending the passengers inside tumbling like laundry. The force of the mangled vehicle slammed into the other Sorokor bodies. Theo and Archer pushed themselves away from each other, just getting missed by one of the huge clawed reptilian feet. One simple chomp completely encapsulated a Sorokor employee. A limp arm stuck out from the second dinosaur's maw before slipping down its throat along with the body. Oh my god. Alarmed operatives clipped regular bullets back into their guns and started taking shots. The first Giganosaurus pinned one of the shooters inside of its mouth. Nice. It knocked a second man over as it shook the first like a rag doll. It tossed the corpse into a group of men about to fire. Nicely done. Terrified, Archer screamed out, Give him everything you've... Something like that. Each and every human and animal turned its head toward the distant noise. Cobalt blue, firework-like streaks lit up the night sky. Uh-oh. Some of them swirled and sputtered into nothingness. Was that? Something within Viv constricted her gut. The rift? A snap right above EA's head made her gaze up and turn to view it. Zap! Bursting outward from a bluish core, a rift manifested. A speeding black pickup truck from the present careened and fishtailed as the screaming driver had slammed on the brakes. EA didn't have time to move. Zop! The rift collapsed in on itself, slicing the truck's engine away from the windshield. Sebastian whipped past, snagging EA's shirt with his fingers. An awkward roll made the truck's partition slam into the parent Giganosaurus. No! Don't you dare. Don't you do this to me, Derek. The powerful dinosaur staggered, crushing another... Okay, that's okay then. Result. Another Sorokor unit member as its thick, muscular tail thrashed around. It took out another 2 men before getting back up to kick the damaged truck parts out of the way. On her side, and alive and well, EA rolled over. Unable to stop himself with his zip-tied wrists, Sebastian winced beside her as his hip had struck a small boulder. Stunned by his heroic act, she stammered, you... His grimace turned into a half-smile. Thank me when we get back home. Archer aimed at one of the adult dinosaurs. Got you now. Crack, zap. Behind Cam and Viv, another rift materialized. They discovered a decrepit city on the other side. About 50 feet away, a figure covered in high-tech armor pointed one of its arms at them. A mechanical voice uttered, "Unidentifiable civilian, state your name and..." Oh man! Is that the future? One of the Gigantosaurus rammed its head into a bolt-seen Saurocore employee, sending them through the anomaly. Yeah! The machine-like being didn't even flinch as it shot an orange beam at the employee, disintegrating them before they hit the cracked asphalt. Wow! Then it aimed at at the teens. Oh no! Threat detected. Zoop-pop! Whew! Oh man! The residual wind from the rift closing tasseled Viv's hair as she stared in disbelief. Was that a robot? A few Saurocore men had taken cover underneath the empty trailer. Though they'd taken down large dinosaurs before, nothing had prepared them for the ferocious surprise. Simple bumps from one of the Gigantosaurus' snouts made the cowering humans yelp and cuss. Its lower jaw slid under the trailer and clamped shut. Cam grabbed Viv by her arms, pulling her out of the way of a charging Gigantosaurus as two Saurocore men tried to hightail it. Why are all these rifts popping up? Theo met up with his daughter and helped her dodge a swinging dinosaur tail. My guess is something happened to the main rift. Oh man. Hey! We're reading. We're almost done with the book. Something bad? Ye caught her breath, resting her hands on her knees. Judging by the noise it made, almost sounded like crack, zip. It exploded. The new rift opened by the trail they'd made from the boat to the nest. It gave everyone a peek at a dark, rocky skyline lit up with violet light. Sebastian held his side as he hobbled over. These must be residual rifts, like water droplets spraying out. If the space-time energy is unstable enough, it could do anything. Pulling out a knife, Theo grabbed Sebastian's forearm and slipped the blade through the zip ties. And thank you for saving my daughter. Ashamed of his past mistakes, Sebastian rubbed his wrists. I more than owed you. Cam pointed to the other side's upper atmosphere. Whoa, there's 3 moons in the sky. Look out! The front end of the trailer flew out of the wrathful Gigantosaurus's maw. As the group sped up to dodge the hunk of metal and wood, half of the trailer entered the otherworldly side. Zoop pop. Oh man! There's so much happening! Among the chaos, Archer stumbled into the forest and finally found cover as he readied his rifle. Tranquilizer darts had been loaded. He wiped his brow before aiming at one of the adult Gigantosaurus and placed his finger on the trigger. Now you're mine. Crack! Zap! Son of a... Water flooded toward him. Caught in its wave, Archer flailed until his back connected horizontally with a tree. His arm smacked into another trunk, knocking the rifle out of his clutches. A stone's throw away from him, Nandy perked up and sniffed the air. The man's scent mixed with water became familiar. Stepping toward him, Nandy recalled a traumatic experience thanks to the odor. Oh no! Most of a pack of Noondasukuses had been attacked less than a year ago. Their helpless cries and fearful hisses had added to the mayhem of Saurocore trying to capture as many as possible. Her hatchlings had also been taken. Nandy's revenge. They'd struggled to escape small sacks in Archer's very hands. Sprawled on the forest floor, Archer couldn't move his dazed head. Searing pain encompassed his undeniably broken back. After screaming out in agony, he noticed a creature in his left eye's peripheral. Nandy approached with rage-filled eyes. Every twitch of Archer's back muscles made him shriek. No! God, please no! Hiss! Yeah! Eat it! What about getting home? Viv yanked Cam out of the way as yet another space-time gateway expanded nearly right beside him. One of Archer's men didn't even realize as he'd been running away from the protective parent dinosaur. He hustled into Times Square of New York City and knocked a couple of people over. Some on the opposite side saw the Giganosaurus and screamed as the rift closed back in on itself before the dinosaur could storm through. Jeez! Unsure of their odds, Cam looked at Viv's distraught demeanor, then pulled her in close. Viv, listen to me. Wrapped up in him, Viv let her agitation wane as he stared deep into her eyes. Stared deeper into her eyes than he'd ever done before. Cam, what if we don't? Whatever happens to us, wherever or whenever we end up. He took a breath which gave him the extra courage to give her all of his. I love you. A second after he'd said those 3 words, Viv teared up as she nodded, which brought her unsteady lips closer to his. Cam, I love you. Their arms cinched around each other as their lips connected for the first time. What? In that moment of complete disarray, their feelings for each other synced. Rifts continued to open and close around the area. The Giganosaurus duo continued to defend their nest against Saurochor men who had the guts to try and shoot them down. Yet, Cam and Viv's kiss seemed to stop all anarchy, space, and time. Ah! Crack, zap! Across the nest, a window to the present took formation. The teenagers came out of their passionate kiss and gazed over. Viv recognized the area right away. That's our high school. Kids, go now! Sebastian had already started running as best he could. That's home. Adrenaline coursed into Cam's legs as he took Viv's hand. Come on! They took off, heading toward the nest where the Gigantosaurus had taken up defensive positions. One of them lowered its jaws at the teens. Cam pushed Viv to the side, helping both of them to barely miss the dagger-like teeth. Having left her father's side, EA rushed over to help Sebastian get to the rift faster. Swinging one of his arms over his shoulders, she noticed his shocked expression. This is me thanking you. Sebastian hurried through the rift, which cued relief to reach every nerve in his body. Swirling around, he reached out an arm. Let's go, you can do it. On the prehistoric side, EA kept her arms out to the kids. Viv, Cam, go, go, go! Halfway between the nest and the rift, Cam noticed the outer rim of the anomaly began to twitch inward. We can make it, Viv. Safety became only a dozen feet away. Viv kept her legs moving against their tired will. Almost there. 5 feet. The rift began shrinking. Cam propelled Viv forward. Nandy sprinted behind them as if cheering them on. Viv's outstretched hand connected with Sebastian's. EA gave her an extra shove, pushing her through. On the present side, Viv grinned as she spun. Cam, zip up. Man, hopefully her entire body went through, you know? That would be unfortunate if, like, part of her hand, you know? Like the truck and stuff. Ooh, chapter 47. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Chapter 47. Four more to go. Okay. Cam? Vivian stood on the solid ground of home, but the only person around her was Sebastian. Ugh, figures. No. Her fingers raked through the front tresses of her hair. Cam, he had to have... Streetlights lit up the area. Everywhere she looked, she saw no sign of the young man she loved. Sebastian had no idea of what to say. Viv, it doesn't look like... He didn't want to make things worse for her. I'm sorry. Her voice cracked as all strength within her vanished, but he was right there. I was almost there. On his knees, Cameron had sunk to the grass. Gunfire could no longer be heard as most of the Saurochor people had either been taken out by the protective Giganosaurus parents or had hightailed it out of there. Cam waved an arm out in front of him in the hopes of willing another rift. Open again. Off to the side, Emily Ann struggled to think of any proper words of comfort. Cam, I'm so sorry. Open. Cam didn't register her voice as he raised his own. Again. EA had started walking over to him when she noticed one of the Gigantosaurus turning to stare at the teenager. Theo had just finished pulling the weighted nets off the dinosaur babies, showing that he wasn't a threat. When he saw the one turn toward his daughter, he froze. Sweetie, stay calm, okay? But the Giganosaurus didn't focus on her. Cam didn't care that tears had been streaking down his face. He'd finally realized his true feelings for Viv, and now something as complex yet simple as time kept them apart. He took another swing at the empty air. Please, please open. A large nostril bumped into his back. Oh, jeez. Startled, Cam awkwardly turned and came face to snout with the huge, intimidating Giganosaurus. There was nowhere for him to go. Nothing he could do would get him away from the dinosaur's toothy jaws. A vocalization reverberated up from its chest and through its closed mouth, as if it had sensed his misery. Aww. Slow and gentle, the Giganosaurus nudged its broad nose against Cam's torso. Nandy exited the forest and saw the larger dinosaur tuning in to the boy's distressed demeanor. She trotted over, getting the attention of the mother Giganosaurus for a moment, then laid on the ground beside Cam and set her head on his lap. Oh my god. Ige couldn't believe what she had been witnessing. This adds more confirmation to my research, Theo remarked as he walked up to her. With everything he'd studied so far about the prehistoric creatures, this moment offered even more to explore. This is something the whole world should be witnessing. Though unexpected, Cam gave in to the dinosaurs comforting him. He raised his left arm to pet the Giganosaurus's gigantic head. His right hand rested on top of Nandy's head and brushed his thumb against her scales. Cam noticed the others watching. Didn't this thing just eat a guy or two? To defend its young, Theo answered, relying on his experience. A mother elephant would do its utmost to save their baby too. Completely in awe, Nia left her mouth half open. It's incredible. By acknowledging our humanity and the true meaning of acting humane, we can understand each creature better, therefore bringing more balance and peace to the world. Theo waxed poetic, bringing his daughter closer to him with an arm around her shoulder. I noticed you didn't exactly jump at the opportunity to jump through. Yeah, she nodded, fully aware that she'd had the perfect chance to be back in the present. It wasn't the right time for me. Puzzled by her statement, he looked her in the eyes and noted her smirk. Ah, the right time. I see now. He kissed her on the forehead and grinned. I love you, Em. Love you too, Pops. Unable to keep herself fully upright, Viv managed to reach the curb and sat down. She couldn't fight back tears any longer as they washed over her cheeks. Over the last couple of days, her and Cam had been through so much together. They had discovered a lot about each other. More than anything else, they'd learned to truly love each other. Taking a spot beside her, Sebastian placed a hand on her shoulder. How about we stay here until your family comes here to get you, okay? He pulled out his cell phone and found it only had 11% left. There we go, some sort of recognition of percentage. What's your parents' number? The mention of phones made Viv slip her own out of her own pant pocket. Clicking the side button, she noticed the standby screen showed only 6% battery life. There we go, that makes sense. The front camera unlocked with her facial biometrics. About to press her thumb to the phone call app, she realized a different application had been left open. Voice recordings. She clicked on the last file that had been created earlier that day and turned up the volume. Hey, Viv. The sound of Cam's voice both crushed and warmed her heart in equal measure. This is weird talking to your phone without you around, but anyway. Since there were no headphones in the cell phone jack, Sebastian could also hear the message. We're preparing to head out and try to find you. I'm currently sitting in front of a snoozing Quetzal, you know what, that doesn't matter right now. His stammer helped Viv to giggle, though she still cried. What matters is that I should have been able to tell that you liked me a long time ago. I feel like such an idiot, never noticing it before. As soon as I heard you say the word love in the river, clutching her cell phone harder than she meant to, Viv hung on his every word. To her, she wondered if these would be the last words she'd ever hear from him. That's when I realized that I've loved you for as long as I can remember. Aww. Viv's throat closed up, trapping every ounce of air within her lungs. Aww. It wasn't clear to me for so long, and again, I feel incredibly stupid for not realizing sooner. Everything about you has always made me happy. Your laugh lifts me up on a bad day. Your smile has always healed my wounds, and for crying out loud, every time you slapped me on the shoulder for being a turd, I realize now that that was your way of telling me that you loved me, even though I was being a turd. About to comment on the word turd being used in a love declaration, Sebastian opted to say nothing. He couldn't restrain his heart from being affected by the emotional circumstances and let a few tears roll down his cheeks. Aww. Viv leaned her forehead forward, touching it to the top of her phone as drops from her streaming tears fell to the present-day asphalt. I just want you to know that whatever happens to you, or me, or us together, if we make it home or not, Cam had taken a shaky breath, that I love you, Viv. Past or present, the time we spent together is time I'll always cherish. Aww. The recording finished. By the end of it, Viv squeezed her phone and held it close to her chest. She wanted his words to be as close to her heart as possible. Putting her fingers to her lips, she lingered on the sensation of having their first kiss, and their last kiss. After giving her a moment, Sebastian gave her back a light pat and opened his phone to the call screen. Let's get you home, Viv. Aww, Derek! Okay. Well, if that's the crying part, then that's better than what I was fearing. So, okay. I have a feeling where the second book is going now. Oh, thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, chapter 48. About 15 prehistoric minutes ago. Uh-oh. Darkness. A grittiness hung in the air. Anthony Bartoloni coughed before inhaling a deep breath. Something likened to the sound of sticks cracking and rubbing against each other echoed all around. Migraine-like pain throbbed through his head. The heck? Where am I? Oh, I really hope he's in the future with a robot disintegrating ray gun. Still waiting for his eyes to adjust, he pulled his cell phone out of an inner pocket in his suit jacket. He set his left hand down beside him, which helped him identify the ground he'd been resting on. Anthony brought a fistful of it to his nose. Dirt. Another smell offended him. Decay. Might be better. So close! Letting the clumps fall back down beside him, he stretched his hand out again to help him sit up. His fingers brushed against a long, smooth object. As he turned on the flashlight of his cell phone, he brought the item to his face. A femur bone. Some flesh still clung to one of the ends. Looking up, he couldn't see stars of any kind or even the moon, only absolute darkness. Crick crack, crick crack, crick crack. What in the... Swinging his tiny phone light around, Bartoloni discovered he wasn't the only body down in the cave-like chamber. Except the other bodies weren't among the living. Small dinosaurs and animal corpses were mangled, heaped, and some only had half their substance torn from their carcasses. Aw, poor tinies. Poor tinies. And other animals? No, not animals. It's okay if he does. Okay, I have a feeling that I might start crying still. He shifted in the dirt and directed his phone's light behind him. Yes. A creature pulled its front end behind one of the piles of bodies to hide. Bile crept up its chest and almost into his throat. Bile crept up his chest and almost into his throat until he noticed tunnels dug into the bottoms of the dome-shaped space. The more he discovered, the more he kept telling himself, I need to get the heck out of this frigging... Is this a giant centipede? A creature darted out of a dark opening near his feet. Before he could pull his legs back, it clamped its mandibles around his ankles. God's sakes! Anthony whacked the femur at the anthropod's head. Get off me, you piece of... The end of the bone glanced off the giant millipede's armored head, making it even angrier and more forceful with its strong jaws. Hiss. Another giant millipede entered the space from another passage. I like this way better. I think the alien or the future robots with, like, melting guns was way too easy of a death for him. Another giant millipede entered the space from another passage. It arched the front half of its overgrown body and knocked the club-like bone out of Anthony's hand before latching onto his bicep. No, this can't... Crunch! Finally. Bartolone steak. I'll have Bartolone steak raw, please. The fingers of his right hand entered the mouth of yet another Anthroplora. All three giant millipedes forced him back down to the dirt floor of their burrow. Hiss. In short succession, younger ones exited other tunnels into the main chamber with incredible speed to have some human dinner. No! That's satisfying. That's the end of the chapter. Thank you, Derek. That almost makes it worth suffering through the previous of his story. Chapter 49! Present time. In the past. Done waiting, Cameron rubbed his face, wiping tears from his cheeks in the process. He'd held on to hope for a couple more minutes, but nothing happened. A deep breath left his lungs before he spoke. Guess that's it then. Oh, Cam. I can't believe that happened to you guys. Disappointed, Emily Ann walked over and took the boy in her arms. I was really rooting for you too. Theodore had been admiring Nandy off to the side when he chimed in. I know of a couple more Rift sites we could check out. He stood up with a slight smirk. It would take a bit of a flight, though. Cam weighed the variables. The contents of my gut say no, but my heart says yes. Figured so, EA responded with a grin. Let's go see what we can do. That's how the pasta known as Bartolone came to me. Oh, gross. Theo started for the path that had been made earlier. Wonder if that boat is still there. Would be a nice gift from Sorcor. Side by side with EA, Cam moved along. Then he glanced back one last time. Still nothing. Facing forward once more, he had Nandy come up beside him and cocked his head over to connect her gaze with his. Her presence made him chuckle. You've been a good buddy, too, little ninja dog. Ninja dog? Theo half turned as he hiked on. That's a Nundasukas. I know, Cam answered, sadness in his tone. Oh, so sadness, sorry. I know, Cam answered, sadness in his tone. It's just what Viv called it. Theo took that as his cue to remain quiet for the next while. Instead, he got lost in his thoughts of what he'd observed a few minutes earlier. A massive Giganosaurus had shown concern for a young human. It had responded like a dog or cat would to its distraught owner. Overall, it gave his research more fuel for its fire. All Cam could think about was Viv. The moment the rift closed kept her playing in his mind. He'd been inches away from home, from her, and love. Though his mind filled with numerous thoughts, he glanced over at EA, who had been mostly staring down at the ground. Decided to stay with your dad then, huh? EA's grin diminished as she walked. As much as she loved her father, part of her wondered if she'd made the right decision. I'll admit, leaving the future behind, she cleared her throat. It took a fair bit to make that decision. Cam smirked. The giant millipede sealed the deal, didn't they? Bursting with laughter, EA hadn't expected his remark. Oh yeah, I love being dragged to my death. She pushed on his shoulder just enough to almost knock him off stride. Nah, as much as I had more of a life in the present, I didn't want a future without my dad, even if that meant staying in the past. Hearing her endearment toward her father made him smile. Now that's one of the most timey-wimey sentences I've ever heard. Mind if I use that for a... Oh! Reality checked him. Oh, right. There's no books to write in here. They walked in silence for a couple of seconds and watched Nandy trot ahead of them, veering off to parts of the path that made her curious. Cam found something else to talk about that meant a lot to him. Thanks for helping Viv get through, by the way. EA nodded. Wish I could have helped you both. There was so much going on back there. She brought her hands to the sides of her head as if her mind had been blown. Some of those rifts weren't all leading to our present Earth either. I wonder if we may have seen other planets or even dimensions. Cam raised a finger to add, "You saw the one with the purple sky, right? I'm pretty sure I saw something like a large moth of some sort flying by." Is that what that was? He recalled the details. Its red eyes were pretty freaky, right? I was hoping it wouldn't. He took a couple more steps before stopping. Cam, are you... He shushed her. Do you hear that? Snap. Cam froze, trying to channel all his senses to pick up on where it came from. Crack. Up ahead, Theo tilted his head. It's that. Crack, zap, crackle, snap. A one-story diameter ring of blue space-time energy took form about 40 feet behind them. Everyone turned to try and identify where and when it led to. The other side. It's dark. Cam started taking subconscious steps toward it, although he knew something within himself had taken control. I can't see much. That might take you home. EA began walking over to the anomaly to see for herself. At least, I hope it does. 20 feet away from it, Cam added some oomph to his step. Even if I end up in Africa, it better... Only 10 feet remained when Nandy came up from behind and brushed against his leg. She circled him a couple of times while looking up at his face. "Ah, Nandy," Cam cooed as he crouched down. Of all the things he'd expected to happen to him in the last 2 days, he never thought he'd befriend a dinosaur. "I have to go now, okay?" Well, it's recorded, so you can rewatch it at least, at the very least. I was trying to wait for you. The Nundasukas angled its head, giving him an inquisitive stare. Cam placed a hand on the side of her snout while stroking her tough, crocodilian-like back scales with the other hand. "Make sure you look after EA and her dad for me, all right?" Once he finished his goodbye, he marched onto the rift. Cam arrived at the space-time window. He still couldn't see much. The other side contained eerie darkness and shadows. Lifting one of his feet, he paused. "Is this the way home?" "Hey, Cam," EA called over. He turned to look at her and her father. "Yeah? You'll find her." She gave him a confident grin. "I know you will." Cam nodded, then took his first step through the rift, another step further, and helped him gain a better adjustment for his eyes. I would not have trusted that. I would not have trusted that, not one bit. Gone. The rift behind him vanished. Its sudden disappearance made him spin around. Large teeth were inches away from his face. Freaking out, he backed up into a cordoning rope and tumbled to the ground. Metal poles fell from either end of the rope, clanging against the floor. His hands touched a smooth surface like tile. Where am I? As more of the environment took shape around him, he gazed up at a Utahraptor skeleton in a leaping pose. Among the shadows, a voice asked, "Who are you?" Startled, Cam managed to pull himself up and out of the tangled equipment. "I'm sorry, I am..." A woman entered the room from a connecting hallway. Okay, it's a little bit better. Upon coming closer, she took a good look at the teenager. Okay. "Are you Cameron Eckert?" "Okay, whew! Whew! We're home." Shocked to hear someone he'd never met say his name, he cleared his throat while taking a step back. "Yeah, that's me." Incredibly relieved, she stopped within a couple feet of the boy and extended a hand out to him. "Felicia Voorhees, I'm happy you've made it home." Okay, whew! I could have gone a million wrong ways. Could have gone a million wrong ways. Yeah, I'm about to read the last chapter. So if you want to rewatch from any chapters you've missed on my YouTube live, then you might want to back out and you can rewatch the pre-recorded ones. All the chapters that I've read are on my YouTube live section for anybody. And of course, preferably, you can buy your own copy. And this book is in my storefront, Amazon storefront, and there's a link directly for that in my YouTube description of the chapters, of the book chapters I'm reading too. So you can buy your own copy. You could have ended up anywhere, anytime, exactly! And of course, purchasing helps to support our authors. Chapter 50. Almost home. To Vivian, the taxi ride home had started to feel like an eternity. Inside of her, a dullness seemed to overpower excitement. All the familiar streets that passed by should have given her comfort. Nothing could fill the expanding void in her heart. She wanted to hear the recorded message from Cameron again, but she didn't want to annoy Sebastian or make things awkward with the taxi driver. On the opposite side of the vehicle, Sebastian hadn't said a word since they'd hopped in. As much as he longed to go to his own house, he wanted to make sure Viv would get home safe and sound first. The taxi slowed to a stop in front of Viv's house. Inside, none of the lights were on. Only the front door light illuminated the front walk. Her parents had always left it on whenever she'd been out late. She recognized it as a sign of their hope. Well, Sebastian gave her an empathetic grin. I'll take care of this, Viv. You go on up. He tapped on the fabric of the driver's seat. Keep the meter running. I'm over on the other side of town. Viv placed her hand on the inner door handle. Somehow everything didn't seem real. All the circumstances that had happened after she'd left her house a couple days ago to be with Cam seemed imaginary. Now she would no doubt have to explain it all to her family. What do I even tell them? Her question came out timid and lacking confidence. Perplexed, Sebastian rubbed his wrists. Whether they believe you or not, you know everything was real. Her last moments in the prehistoric time were still the freshest in her mind, especially the image of Cam reaching out to her as the rift collapsed. I wish it wasn't. The ache in her voice made Sebastian look away from her and gaze out his window. Instead of focusing on the houses on the other side of the street, all he could see was his regretful reflection. Me too, kid. Viv sucked down a deep breath before opening the taxi door. She finally exited but popped her head back in before leaving. Oh, and I hope you get to see your kids sometime soon. He turned his gaze away from the window and smiled at her. Thanks, Viv. She nodded, closed the door, then took her first steps onto the front walk. She didn't have her keys on her, since she'd left her purse in Cam's truck. Who's going to answer? Telling her parents everything would be easy and challenging at the same time. Over halfway to the house, she realized an even more difficult task would eventually come up. I'll have to tell Cam's parents about him. As that slammed into her like a freight train, she slowed her stride. That just might break me. All those thoughts weighed on her mind. She made it to the white front door. The taxi driver put the vehicle into gear. Wait. Sebastian leaned forward to pat the man's seat. I want to make sure she gets inside okay. Viv lifted a fist and expelled a deep breath. Knock, knock, knock. No one seemed to stir within the home. She placed a finger against the doorbell and closed her eyes. Ding dong. 3 seconds went by until the living room light went on and shone through the front windows. Someone came closer to one of them to see who was there. Viv turned and made eye contact with her father. Andrew Lancaster shouted further into the house, She's home! Viv's home! He whipped around to the front door as other rooms became illuminated. His hands trembled so much from elation and excitement that he couldn't unlock the door fast enough. Once he opened it, he lost all breath as he fell to his knees and wrapped his daughter up in his arms. Pleased to see a reunited family, Sebastian sat back in the taxi and smiled. We can go now. On the front step, Viv could hear her mom and little brother clamoring down the stairs as she held her father's head close to her chest. Dad, I'm so sorry. Cam and we shouldn't have... Viv, oh my God, you're here. Cassie Eckert came to the door just as thrilled as everyone else. She let Denise pass through to embrace her own daughter before noticing that only Viv had arrived. Honey, where's Cam? In the comfort of her mother's arms, Viv managed to turn her head and glance up at Cassie. He's, we should probably go inside. Evan Eckert stood beside his wife. Only seeing Viv made his chest tighten. Artie hugged her just as she crossed the threshold. Where have you been? She rustled the hair on the top of his head. Buddy, you're not gonna believe. Hey, what's everyone crying about? Viv's hand still held the door handle. The voice had come from behind her by the street. It gave her chills of an amorous nature. It gave her chills of an amorous nature. Did someone get trapped in a prehistoric time or something? Smiling the biggest she'd ever made in her life, Viv spun around and immediately leaked ecstatic tears as she bolted back outside. Cameron sprinted toward her while grinning so hard that it hurt. Aww! Aww! Thoughts on Sebastian now. I'll do a little... Well, hold on. I'll get to that. Out in the street, Felicia drove off, letting the teenagers have their moment. Right before they met, he braced himself as she collided into him. He kissed her cheek and embraced her with all he had. Having her so close to him made his legs weak and his heart pump overtime. Considering he'd lost all hope just a matter of minutes ago, he'd been revived by simply being in her presence. Viv let herself melt into him. She raked her fingers through his hair, pushing his head into the side of hers. The combination of having his words from the recording in her mind and having him safe in her arms put her in an emotional state she couldn't even begin to explain. Out of all the things she felt in the moment, relief and love trumped all of them all. "We made it, Viv," he cooed in her ear before giving her another peck on her soft, misty cheek. "We did it." She pulled her head back to gaze into his eyes. Cradling his face in her hands, she struggled to come up with much to say. How did you even... Urged by his affection for her, Cam pushed his lips onto hers. Ah! She more than accepted his kiss, letting him press against her trembling lips again. She more than accepted his kiss, letting him press against her trembling lips again and again. Every time he gave her another, her love for him swelled to the point she thought her heart would explode into a rift of passion. Cam and Viv caught their breaths. They gazed into each other's eyes, taking in every inch of their blissful expressions. Romance novel time. Don't take this the prehistoric way, but... He kissed her one more time. "We should have done that a long time ago." Ah ha 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 ha. I do need to do some more romance novels. Oh my gosh, that's in the chapter, but we got an epilogue. We got an epilogue, guys. It's not over yet. Encore! Encore! Oh my, Jess. So thought before we get to the epilogue, which is 3 months later. That's exciting. Thoughts on Sebastian now. Okay, I typically I was feeling like there's no way, there's nothing Sebastian could do to make him better. But I will say, like, a secret scene. I do feel like you have successfully made him like the, what's the term? You know the term I'm trying to think of. In a story, like the, I can't think of the word. Not reclaimed, but like that word where he's better now. Like, okay, I can give him a second shot now. Redeemed himself, essentially. Redemption arc, thank you, yes. I was getting there. As for Bartoloni, I don't think that, as good as you are with writing, I don't think anybody could make Bartoloni have that redemption arc, ever. Alright. Epilogue. 3 months later. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Sebastian Sharp held his cell phone to... Oh, okay. I'm glad I said that about, because I have a feeling where this might be going. Or at least in some part. Held his cell phone to an ear as he stood out on the front porch of his new home. Sounds good to me. Oh, and make sure the baby stegosauruses have enough food before they arrive. You'd be surprised how much they can pack away. Okay, take care. Okay, maybe not. It was too far gone and blind. Exactly, yes. Alright, we're gonna see where this goes, Maybe I spoke too soon. And I don't believe so. I feel like he really truly, like, you can't have that sort of an experience and go back. You just can't. Ending the call, he nodded to himself. Soracor no longer operated with the aid and use of the space-time anomalies. Legalities and red tape had all been taken care of over the past couple of months. All Soracor would be known for from now on would be simple dinosaur museums. Hey, Seb. Felicia stepped out from inside the house holding her phone. What? Pierce is wondering if they can... I didn't see that coming. Pierce is wondering if they can deliver Trudy's new Trudon friends on Thursday next week. Aww. Sebastian scratched the back of his head. Ask if they can come Friday. I forgot to tell you a young adult Brachiosaurus is on its way from Oregon. Someone found it injured. Aw. I'm hoping we can help it. Okay, yeah. I like how it's from Oregon, because that's where I'm from originally. I'm hoping we can help it. He went to scroll through the contacts in his smartphone, which reminds me, I need to call Beaumont so she can, or Beaumont, so she can come and take a look at it. Felicia brought the receiving end of her phone back to her mouth. Friday works better if that's alright with you. Okay, great. We'll see you guys then. By the time she'd stopped the conversation, she came to Sebastian's side. Aww. After taking a deep breath, he turned to look at her in her stylish, early fall black sweater. I sure hope taking over Bartolone's property works out. Oh, nice! It will. She held a hand out to him, which he took while giving in to a grin. It may not be Soarcore, but this is a good new start for both of us. Again, he nodded as he looked out over the nearest domed enclosure where diverse dinosaur species roamed in peace. I definitely needed it. She laid his hand between both of hers. Aiden and Olivia are still coming over this weekend, right? Aw, that's right. Sebastian smiled at the mention of his kids. Speaking of kids, he gazed over at the front gate. I'm surprised they aren't here yet. Should be any time now, right? Ding. A notification sang its tune on his phone, and he read the text message. Ah, they just turned onto the road. I'll go meet them at the gate. I like this. About 2 minutes later, a modern pickup truck drove past the open gates and onto the bridge. As soon as the young driver noticed Sebastian, they parked and hopped out. When you said secluded, you really meant it, huh? Nice to see you made it, Cam. Ah! Sebastian responded, coming over for a handshake. It made for the perfect trip with tunes. Vivian exited the passenger side and came over to them. She also shook the older man's hand. It's good to see you, Seb. I'm happy you were both able to make it, Sebastian remarked with a big smile. So, what is this place? Cam glanced all around, then he noticed the long necks of certain creatures off to his left and stepped over to the stone railing. Wait, you have dinosaurs? Viv wore an excited grin as she also walked over. How did you get them here? Don't ask questions. Sebastian crossed his arms as he also gazed over his new endeavor. This used to belong to someone who abused the privilege of owning dinosaurs. His practices were underhanded and unethical. But since his disappearance, when we destroyed the main rift here in Utah, I've taken over all of it. Cam looked over at the refined businessman. Is it going to be like a dinosaur park? Sebastian leaned his head side to side. More like a reserve of sorts. Ah! Viv smirked. Good, because there may be trademark issues if you were to put it in to make it into a park. If you made it into a park, that's funny. Laughing at his girlfriend's quip, Cam nudged his shoulder into hers. You beat me by 2 seconds on that one. Even Sebastian chuckled as he placed his hands on the railing. I have something to show you two. Come with me. Cam squinted at him. You're not going to lead us to a time rift and throw us through again, right? A slap came from one of Viv's hands. Jeez, Cam. The insinuation made Sebastian snort. No, those days are behind me. Nodding, Cam began following him. Just checking. After a small hike into one of the domed enclosures, the three of them came to an opening in the trees which led to a small lake. Side by side, on the opposite side of the water, a family of triceratops and a small pack of velociraptors drank together. For Cam and Viv, everything within the park took them right back to the prehistoric time they tried so hard to escape. Yet they knew nothing here would harm them. This is incredible, Viv remarked in wonder. How long has this place existed? Sebastian counted in his head. Roughly 4 years now. And their presence hasn't affected the time-space energy at all? With everything that had happened, Viv recalled her theory. No rifts pop up around here? Funny you should mention that, Sebastian responded. Uh-oh. As he looked around the lake, our scientists, well, former scientists, figured that because Soarcore had let the main rifts all over the world stay open for so long, that's what caused more to randomly open. Cam strolled over to the water's edge. Makes sense. A few feet away, Sebastian placed his hand above his eyes as he watched the surface of the pristine lake. Oh, here they come. Almost like clockwork. confused. Viv stepped forward. What's they, exactly? Then she saw multiple creatures swimming toward their position. Wait, aren't those... You gotta be kidding me. Cam raised his voice in absolute excitement. 2 adult-sized nudisukuses swam up to them and exited the water. Yes! Is it Nandy's... is it Nandy's children? Okay. We just received them last week. Sebastian kept grinning as the teenagers brimmed with elation. Wait for it. Viv kept staring out at the water. 3 little nudisukuses breached the surface before... Wait, okay. Babies by now. Babies. By now, Viv joined her boyfriend closer to the shore to pet and enjoy the aquatic dinosaurs. Oh my goodness, they're so freaking adorable. They aren't Nandy, Cam mentioned as he picked up one of the baby dinosaurs. It chirped a little noise as its little arms hung over his cradling hands. But I'm going to call you Mandy, and that one can be Sandy, and you... Really? Viv chuckled at him as she had the 3rd infant Nudisukus crawl up her thigh to play. You're actually going to name all of them? Yep. He gently booped his nose into the baby's snout as it swung its tail back and forth. And that one you've got can be Nandy Jr. Smiling at the teenagers as they enjoyed the company of the dinosaurs, Sebastian spoke up. Just so you know, you're welcome to visit any time. It's the least I can do after everything that went down. Viv had Nandy Jr. laying on her forearm. She ran her fingers along its crocodilian-like scales down its back. We'll definitely be taking you up on that. Cam looked back at his friends. I meant to tell you guys. I've been taking notes of the whole thing and started writing about it. He met eyes with Viv and grinned. I think it'll make a decent sci-fi novel. Maybe. Just maybe. Okay, this is for everybody. If you manage to make it home to the present and enjoy this book, please take a moment to give it a review. and Bob. So that's the end of this book by Derek Borne. So please, if you'd like to support him, go buy a copy of your own. You can find, I linked it through my Amazon storefronts for easy access. And so meta! And when you do buy it, go ahead and leave a review as well. And it helps to support our local community authors. What about Toothless? Yeah, what about Toothless? He's hanging out back with Pops and Daughter. Because they stayed in the past to hang out with all the dinos. I probably would have too. That is freaking awesome. Oh my goodness. And that one scene where it just kept going back and forth and it was like crazy hectic, but like you needed to know what was happening next. Like that was crazy. Let's see. Aw. I like that. And well, you'll hear about Derek Borne. Here we go. Hopefully he doesn't get embarrassed. Derek Borne is a Canadian author who lives in the prettiest town in Ontario with his wife and moody bearded dragon Ziggy. Notice any comparisons there? Always telling stories since a young age, he first wrote The Ultimate Agent at 14 and kept writing as a hobby over the years until finally publishing. When he isn't writing, he's selling olive oil and balsamics, watching hockey, and waiting for the next superhero movie to come out, aren't we all? That's awesome. There's derekborne.weebly.com to find out more. Sir, car salvation. Don't worry, kids. We still got more to read. I'm going to end it for tonight because I'm tired. And was that an hour stream by now? Let's see how... What's the time? I don't... Oh, here it is. Yeah, an hour and a half almost. Okay. I had to get through that, though. That was so freaking good, Derek. Oh, I really enjoyed that so much. That last segment, like, especially that one chapter where it was just like, oh, that was so good. I liked how you went, like, kind of bounced around, but it was, like, done. So, yeah. Oh, wait, Jason is a fellow... Oh, Derek? Thanks, Derek. Yes. A Canuck? Canadian? Is that a Canadian word? Thank you for excellent reading. Thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously, when I'm reading to everybody, I'm not reading it like, you know, an audiobook kind of a thing. Doing it more like casually. I feel it's more enjoyable when I'm hanging out with you guys and being able to interact with you all while I'm reading. I enjoy that actually a lot. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. So I'll, once I decide is a good time to get into the second book, I'll let you guys know in my Discord. But until then, it might give you more motivation to go ahead and buy your own copy, and buy the second copy for yourselves in the storefront there, so you can get ahead. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for me. It's been a great reading time. It has. Yes. Thank you. Definitely thank you for the story. Now, favorite character. Ooh, man. Definitely one of the dinosaurs. I think that's a hard one. I'm not great with favorites because I start like I have like I can't pick. I start like, well, I like this one though. I really like this one though. Like I loved the scene with the Giganosaurus. Nandy, of course, was just adorable. The flying one, what I'm calling Toothless, he's just cool because he's toothless. Hmm. Part of me honestly wants to say Theo, of all people. And maybe that's more because I am more similar in a way to Interest. Like the fact that he's got to live in this time for so long and be able to spend the time with all these dinosaurs, and he understood them at the level he did. I don't know. I think that's a really cool, and like the science part of it, like studying them, but from a humanely, observing versus like the evil type of researching. I really respect that kind of person, and I don't know. I think I envy him for being able to be out there, hanging out with all these cool dinos, and learning and committing to their protection too. I would probably have to say because of that, Theo would actually be my favorite. I'm partial to the centipedes because she kind of snuck under the radar. Oh, Vic. I'm partial to the centipede. That's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, it's about 9 p.m. I need to get myself some food, and I'm gonna try to get to bed early. Now that I'm kind of back on a decent sleep schedule after that hiccup. Yeah. We'll go. Some people were mad at me for EA's final choice. Really? I honestly was wondering. Personally, I was feeling like there's no way she's gonna leave him. There's just no way. Especially after all that. Like, people just don't go to all she did just to be like, okay, well, I guess you're gonna go, so bye, Pops. Or stay here, so I guess bye, Pops. I saw her staying, personally. And I think that would be the most understandable choice, personally. At least saying poisonous, yeah. I mean, on the other hand, at least, there's the dinosaur park, for sure. So at least, the two kids, like, they could still enjoy the dinosaurs themselves, being around them and whatnot. But I'm kind of like, maybe build like if I were to tell Sebastian what he needed to do, I would tell him, since it's such a large area, like, dude, you need to build, like, Cam and Viv their own house on the premises so that they can live with the dinosaurs in the present. If I was Viv, that's what I would be telling Sebastian right about that time. I'm like, you could just build us a house over there. You got all this money that you profited from all these horrible things that, you kind of caused us to, I'm just saying, like, I think that if you were to do that, then we could fully accept your apology. I would totally say that. That's my only thing. And, maybe have, like, a helicopter taxi so that they can, like, fly back into town at their leisure. I mean, that's the least that he could do for them. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. I'm so glad we got to finally finish that. that story, and I'm excited. I'm glad that it doesn't end there, because we still got the salvation. And I'm actually, seeing how it ended there, I'm kind of curious how this one goes now, because what I was originally thinking, it might not be quite right. So on the back, I'm toying with the idea of Seb writing Cam and Viv into his will, leaving them the property. He better. I mean, like, what kind of... I mean, yeah, he has kids, but his kids, we don't know his kids. Maybe his kids will become, like, horrible people and start misusing the dinosaurs, you know? You can't always trust the kids, even if they're your own, in these situations. I'm just saying, Cam and Viv are younger, so they're going to last a little bit longer than him, and assumedly. And he already knows that they're trustworthy with the dinosaurs, so I would personally, give the kids some money, maybe the vacation home in the Caribbean or something, but definitely give Cam and Viv the dinosaur land, for sure. If he doesn't, I will come haunt him in his death. Alright, so this is the back of the book of the second book, Salvation. Sorokor. Once a criminally covert operation for trafficking dinosaurs to the present, the Reformed Company now fights a seemingly futile battle to keep dinosaurs safe and out of the public eye. High school grads, Cameron and Vivian, are navigating their new relationship status while on a cross-country vacation. Oh, really? Do tell. Until a dodo bird waddles into their lives. Oh, okay. I have a feeling that I already know what my favorite character in this book is going to be by that description. How can you just not love a dodo bird? It's just a dodo bird. You gotta love them. Being thrust back into the world of prehistoric creatures and those who use them for nefarious purposes causes a rift between the teens. What will it take for Cam and Viv to save the dinosaurs and themselves? Wait! Who the heck? All the bad guys are gone, I thought. Wait, oh no. Not Archer. It was rough because Dino Rift was supposed to be a standalone. I said goodbye to them, then people started asking for more. I'm telling you, encore. Encore. I think that's how it goes. I think think that was the right call, personally. And I'm excited. I won't peek. Alright, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I think I've already said it like a billion times, but feel free if you missed any of the chapters or parts of it. You can always rewatch the chapter readings that I've done on my YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube and go ahead and watch those. And then also, if you would like your own copy of the books, you can find them easiest, I think. I put them in my Amazon storefront so that I have a direct link to it. And it's a link in my bio, or there's the link in the YouTube description. And also, this is just Archer. This just in, Archer is finito. Oh, whew. Good. One of those, like, this person somehow survived, and, this or that, and, like, wham, bam, surprise. Whew, okay, good. But yeah, so, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Derek, job well done. You should be very proud of yourself, and I'll figure out when we'll start the second book for more. Encore! Alright. Have a good night, sweet dreams, and dream of large dinos. May you dream of large dinos. Alright, good night, guys.